Hi, it's Tuesday the 2nd of August and today is for the Parliament the beginning of Cook Islands Language Week. I've got Tangi Utikere with me and kia ora ana.
Kia ora ana, Mr Speaker.
Now, we're beautifully adorned, be called a lei in some places, but it's something, what in the Cook Islands, what are these called?
These are called A's. They refer to the flower garland, and often members of our Cook Island community will wear them on their head, and so we call those an A katu.
Right. Well, I think I won't be wearing on my head. There's not much to give it purchase in my particular case. Today's a bit of a special day. We have a member being sworn in, San Affindel, who's a new member for Tauranga, and at 5:45 he'll be making his maiden statement. We start, other than that, with questions to ministers. Ricardo Menendez-March to the Minister of Social Development about poverty. Nicola Willis to the Acting Prime Minister about whether he stands by all the government statements and actions. Anahila Kanongataha Suisuiki to the Minister of Housing about public housing. Nicola Willis to the Minister of Revenue about cost of living payments. Ginny Anderson to the Minister of Police about firearms prohibition orders. Rauri Waititi to the Minister of Housing about whether she stands by the government's statements and actions in housing. Brooke Van Velden to the Acting Prime Minister, same question, just general. Then we have Dr Gaurav Sharma to the Minister of Health about the future of the health workforce. Chris Bishop to the Minister of Housing about people living in cars. Ingrid Leary to the Minister for the Environment about the costs of consenting under the Resource Management Act. Paul Goldsmith to the Minister of Justice about voting rights. And Rena Williams to the Minister of Immigration about opening up New Zealand to the world. So that's, that's a bit of a break in the middle. How would you say thank you in Cook Island, Mara?
Say meitaki, and if you want to say thank you very much, then it's meitaki mata.
So meitaki and meitaki mata, sort of like Wainua mata, sort of quite a lot of water,
It's all about connections.
Yeah. So we've got mata sitting in there. We're going to do an extended sitting today, which means that the House will sit from 2 till 6, it'll sit from 7 till 10, come back at 9 o'clock in the morning until 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. The first bit of legislation is a secondary legislation confirmation bill, the first reading. It's one of those things which has an automatic progress through. It just stops some bills which would otherwise fall over. It just reinforces them to keep them coming. Then the Accessibility for New Zealanders Bill, the first reading in the name of Honourable Poto Williams. It is a new legislative framework for systemic accessibility barriers. Now this bill is going to be very unusual in that the sitting time for the Select Committee is going to be extended. Generally it's 6 months, but what this is going to do is to extend it. Often changes to shorten the period. Then the first reading of the Electoral Amendment Bill, one which is already in there around political donations. The Data and Statistics Bill, third reading in the name of the Honourable Dr David Clark. The Family Court Associates Legislation Bill in the name of the Honourable Kiritapu Allen, first reading. The first reading of the Local Government Electoral Legislation Bill in the name of the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta. And the committee stages of the Three Strikes Legislation Repeal Bill in the name of Kiritapu Allen. The committee stages of the Declarations of Inconsistency, New Zealand Bill of Rights Bill in the name of Kiritapu Allen, and the committee stages of the Animal Welfare Act, which bans the export of livestock by sea. Now, I reckon that's probably about what we'll get through to. And now we're going to do a bit of a test for me. Kia ora ana, that's greetings.
Kia ora ana, Mr Speaker.
Meitaki.
Meitaki mata.
Meitaki mata.
That Wainui mata.
Yeah, mata. Catch the mata at the end. That's a good thing, good way of remembering it for me. Aere rā.
Aere rā, well done.
Aere rā. So what we've got there is we've got a few Cook Island Māori phrases, and I think one of the advantages for a lot of sort of not even Maori-speaking New Zealanders is there's quite a similarity in the languages. You know, there's changes of emphasis, but just listening to Cook Island Māori, if you're used to listening to Māori, even if you're not a fluent speaker, you can sort of understand.
You certainly can. It is. There are a lot of consistencies between the two, and often when you have conversations with Māori members of our community and Cook Island members of the community, they often can generally understand what the conversation's about.
Yeah, and I noticed here there's a badge. Tell me what that's about.
Yeah, so this is my lapel badge that I'm wearing today to acknowledge Cook Island Language Week, and it's the Cook Island Social Club from the Manawatu, and the colours of the Cook Islands are generally green and gold, and it was my grandmother's, who is no longer here with us, but the Cook Islands is where she was born, where my dad was born, and so I try and wear it on special occasions like this week and joining you for the briefing and in the house today.
And tell me a little bit about your family and where they came from.
Yeah, so Dad was born in Aitutaki, specifically the village of Nikopara, and I was really fortunate to be able to go back about 3 weeks ago for a visit there, first time for a wee while. But Dad was here in New Zealand when he was a young boy, and that's the heritage and the connection of me back to my ancestors.
Yeah, I've been there on a couple of occasions. I spent quite a bit of time in the Cook Islands. It's a good place. I pretend that I hide there, but of course no one from New Zealand can hide in the Cook Islands.
Too small.
But it is absolutely lovely. But David Longy used to like Aitutaki. He used to describe himself as being in danger of being mistaken for a beached whale as he spent time in the lagoon there.
Well, they're beautiful lagoons, and particularly on Aitutaki as well.
Yeah. Okay, we better cut this. Aere rā.
Aere rā.